worms too?
I knew that was going to be a quick recovery. I'm so glad this works. This boss is so fucking broken, and you need to fight a broken boss with cheesy exploits like this, because this game couldn't make a competent boss fight and actually make good fundamental systems like the original Resident Evil 4 did. Let's literally do the Resident Evil 1 remake method of looping attacks, just like you did with the fucking Tyrant in Resident Evil 1 remake. Just looping his quick turn. And I like how some moron is like, why do you hate Resident Evil 1 Remake? Resident Evil 1 Remake is the definitive survival horror experience. Yeah? I've played better games that have actually evolved and have not maintained very outdated mentalities on survival horror. The developers took influences from Resident Evil 1 Remake and it translated into this shitty game. Clashing of Resident Evil 1 Remake and Resident Evil 2 Remake mentalities with Resident Evil 4 mentalities. And that's why this boss is so bad. That's why this whole entire game is bad. That's why this whole entire game feels like it was rushed out the door by money-hungry executives. That's why I'm having to resort to this to balance out the shitty encounter. This is what you're doing in Resident Evil 1 Remake most of the time and other cheesy things. Resident Evil 1 Remake is a fucking running simulator. That's what it is. There's no survival horror to that game. There's not even enemies. They're just obstacles. Just hurdles you jump over in the fucking Olympics. Just do everything knife only. No reason to go for weapons or the like because the inventory isn't designed well enough for that. And the enemy encounters are so underwhelming that you never need to rely upon weapons. You only need the knife or defense items. And all those mentalities translated into this game. This so-called definitive survival horror experience is what subtly influenced the developers to do fuck all with their boss. And also with the rest of this game. Not to mention, Resident Evil 1 Remake takes so many cheap handicaps. Like, it takes so many cheap shortcuts in its survival horror. that you can't even take it seriously. I'm so glad I'm doing this. This room is not built for the moves this guy has. The number of times you get caught in a corner because, just like Moreau, this dude is able to do moves in situations that you can't avoid. They didn't design the room well enough to accommodate his moves, so I have to resort to this, and I'm so glad it works. He's not gonna go down, it seems. Well, that was very close.
Present for you. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't get him to go down. And I knew he was gonna do that. Okay, there we go. Please let this be the end. Please let it be 5 knives or something. Finally! I finally know damage this fight! Let's give a round of applause for new Capcom's boss design philosophies. This is true survival horror design. This is revolutionary. This is the kind of boss design that revolutionized survival horror. This is the kind of boss design that made Resident Evil stand out. This is what everybody calls true survival horror, guys. This is what this game has received universal acclaim for, because it can't design a properly functional fight that feels complementary to the game's mechanics. The number of times this guy will end up doing close-range attacks that will pin you against the walls of this arena because this arena is badly designed, and there is so much debris and all this other crap lying around that you just clip on all the time, that just give this guy a very cheap advantage. And then you have the sluggish movement of Leon, making it almost impossible to consistently time when you are supposed to avoid attacks. And if you have the dog here, you clip on the dog when you're trying to avoid any of his moves. And when the dog is here, it triggers that cutscene that causes the wall to fall, and you have even less room to handle this fight. And just to cite that retard's comment again about Resident Evil 1 Remake being the definitive survival horror experience, this is what you're fucking doing in Resident Evil 1 Remake most of the time. It's what you're doing with Yawn, it's what you're doing with the Tyrant, it's what you're doing with the dog, with the Crimson Head. Just being so fucking brain dead in its designs. The whole entire game's a running simulator, and apropos to this, this is a stomp simulator. Just repeatedly looping this guy's stomp so that he doesn't cheese you with any of his bullshit. This is not what you were fucking doing in the original version of Resident Evil 4. They've made an absolute mockery of the original El Gigante fight. This is a fucking disgrace. Just like the rest of this entire fucking game. And I haven't even gotten to the castle area yet. And it's taking me so long to get there because I've been having to fight the poor designs of this game. I've been having to sit through these shitty encounters. These bullet-spongy enemies, these bullet-spongy bosses, lack of flinch animations, lack of hit reaction. Just nothing that feels like a real survival horror experience, nothing that makes me feel like I'm actually in a horror environment. This game does everything it can to remind you that you're playing a game, not allowing you to be immersed into this game at all. This is why I rank this game So far, a 0.001 out of 10. This is a game that should have never been released. They should have focused on remaking Code Veronica. At least then they would have a competent remake. But instead, they decide to play the part of the corporate executive so greedy for money and just release this alpha of a game that is so unfinished, so badly playtested, so improperly balanced, and it holds for the entire game. This is why I've been doing my blind playthrough. This is why I did the videos I did of the demo. This is why I've titled my blind playthrough videos as such. This is why I'm doing alternative playthroughs, because I have to showcase all of these problems. I have to showcase just how retarded and high the developers were when designing this game. So much so that a 3-year-old could make a better game than this cadre of amateurish developers who should be at the height of their game development. It's been almost 27 years ever since the first Resident Evil released back in 1996. 27 years, guys. And this is where it's all been leading towards? You should be ashamed to call yourself a gamer or a Resident Evil player if you think this remake is fucking exceptional. Or you think that Resident Evil 1 Remake is the true definitive horror experience. But I'll save all of this talk for the rest of my blind playthrough. I'm definitely saving this for the upcoming parts of my blind playthrough once I actually upload the rest of my alternative playthrough 1. I did not think this game was going to be so hard to do a blind playthrough for. But that just goes to show that after replaying this game 2 times, just to make it serviceable for a blind playthrough, just so I have the right amount of ammunition, I shouldn't have to do that. I should not have to replay this game 2 times to make it serviceable for a supposedly challenging experience, or for a supposedly functional experience. Yeah, fuck you, new Capcom, and fuck all of you toxic fans for defending this game.